King David Studio podcast.
People come to Cape Town and to other major cities primarily because there are jobs. And there are only jobs there because there are people with capital and skills who invest and start businesses and offer job opportunities. And the role of the government in that context is not to build a 3-bedroom house with a garage and a car in it for every person. The role of the government is to deliver what it's supposed to do in the Constitution, which is basic services. So, do people have clean water to drink? If Eskom is generating electricity, do people get electricity in their houses? Do they have refuse removal? Do they have sanitation? Do they have schools? Do they have clinics? Do they have roads? Is there public transport? If you say yes to all of those things, then the government is doing what the government should be doing. If people go and erect a shack on an unserviced piece of land, then we have to retrofit that piece of land. And many people think that Camps Bay looks like Camps Bay because the government has delivered Camps Bay. No, the government has not delivered Camps Bay. The people in Camps Bay have built those houses privately. And they've done it through a growing economy which can produce prosperity. And it's those people who run the businesses that create jobs for other people in a process of upliftment. And so many of those people in Camps Bay pay up to 35,000 Rand a month to live in their own homes. They pay that in rates and taxes to the local authority so that we can give free basic services to the poor. I once got into huge trouble when I said, if you're a poor person in South Africa, it's much better to be in Langa than in any other township across South Africa.
I remember that.
Now, what is so terrible about saying that? It just happens to be the truth. I live over the road from Langa in Pinelands. That's where I live. I can see the blue roof of the school where my husband teaches mathematics on a Thursday morning in Langa. Langa has all the facilities that the government is supposed to deliver for people. All the facilities.
Then what do you say to those that say it has become more expensive to live in Cape Town, even for people who are originally from Cape Town?
Of course it's become more expensive to live in Cape Town. It's because it's supply and demand. Everybody wants to be in Cape Town because a government that runs properly in South Africa attracts people. It attracts investment. It attracts capital. It attracts skills. It attracts job seekers. It attracts people. And then the law of supply and demand hits in.
But shouldn't the law of supply and demand in this context also be conscious of human needs? We can't, if the most expensive house in South Africa is probably found in Cape Town,
yes,
and the cheapest house is probably found in Cape Town, 2 kilometers away.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
The poorest house is definitely not found in Cape Town. I can promise you that. I can take you to a couple of places where there aren't any rich houses. But the reason that the poorest house in Cape Town can get free basic services and very generous free basic services is because the richest house in Cape Town is paying probably 50,000 Rand a month in rates to the municipality to cross-subsidize and support the poor. It's another reason why poor like to come to Cape Town is that there's such high cross-subsidies. And in the latest Auditor General's report, the Auditor General himself warns the city of Cape Town. Your subsidies are so generous for the poor that they might not be sustainable in the long run. So it's the rich that enable that cross-subsidization to happen.
How do you then manage it? You know, in a chat I had with Premier of Gauteng, Bayanza Lesufo, and I said, people are coming to Gauteng. They're coming in droves. Will you be able to manage this in the long run? He said, let them come. It's free. Gauteng is open for everyone. How do you then manage the influx that's coming into the city of Cape Town? That is, as you say everyone wants to come in, but how do you, as a city, eventually manage it?
Yes, that's the big challenge. And of course, I've been saying since 2006, when I became the mayor of Cape Town, we've got to have infrastructure-led economic growth. Infrastructure-led economic growth. The role of the state is to provide the infrastructure and, crucially, to maintain the infrastructure. We've learned from the Eskom debacle what happens when you don't maintain the infrastructure. That's why we have load shedding. And in Cape Town, we've always budgeted for maintenance, very much so. And we budget for new capital investment in infrastructure, especially sewerage, water. All of these things aren't sexy. You can't see them. Nobody thinks, well, the government is investing in me, but they can flush their toilet.
And it leaves the house.
And it leaves the house. And I can promise you that is a huge investment done at scale. Refuse removal is a huge investment. Wait for those things to break down, as they have in some parts of South Africa, and you'll see what failed investment in infrastructure looks like.
Being a mayor of a city such as Cape Town with so interesting dynamics, what were some of your most basic challenges to get your message across or to get your work done?
The things people inflict on themselves and then blame the state for is a major difficulty. The extent of drug abuse in Cape Town is totally horrific. Now, we push the police all the time. We know that in some cases the police are corrupt and facilitate the drug lords. We have been trying to push back on this as hard as we can. But if you start taking drugs, you are likely to become addicted. And if you become addicted, nothing the government or anybody else does for you will get you out of poverty.
Yeah.
That has to be a personal choice. Now, often it's very difficult for people when they grow up in homes where the parents are drug addicted or alcoholics or whatever to escape that cycle. But if we cannot break the grip of Niobe, as you call it up here, of tik, of unga, of all of those kinds of things that we've got in Cape Town, we're going to sit with an underclass that can't be rescued by any intervention, with this extreme level of addiction, which we have. That is one massive issue. The other thing is teenage pregnancy. Yeah. Teenage pregnancy traps people in poverty. I'm not saying here from a moralistic standpoint. I'm saying just for a simple standpoint of beating poverty. We have regularly girls of literally as young as 10 getting pregnant. 10, 11, 12. 14 is routine. 16 is absolutely routine. Girls must finish their education before they fall pregnant. In fact, not only must they finish their education, they must find a man who is going to take being a father very seriously before they have a baby.
Yeah.
Because truly, raising a child as a teenager will trap you and the child in poverty and probably drug addiction for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And prostitution, or whatever it takes, because you've got no skills, you've got no capacity to earn a living. Drug addiction and teenage pregnancies are an absolute evil that no government on its own can deal with. It's got to be a societal culture that deals with that. Yeah, those were some of the huge issues we faced.
Cape Town is known world over for gangsters and the fights and open shootings that happen. How over time has and I asked this since you were once MEC in the same area, mayor and premier. You know the dynamics probably better than a lot of people because you saw them from a leadership point of view. How were you able to deal with it then? And what intervention have you noticed now that are implemented?
Well, one thing I did when I was the mayor was I started the Matrix clinics. Now, the Matrix model is a model from the United States, which deals specifically with methamphetamine, which is tik. We call it tik. A terrible, ghastly, cheap drug, highly addictive, that you can make in your own kitchen. And of course, lots of people get onto that.
Yeah.
And these are outpatient clinics which have a high level of success. So I wanted everybody who wanted to move away from drug addiction to be able to do so if they made up their mind that this is the difficult path they're going to take to walk away from addiction. I wanted to give everyone who had that much inner core an opportunity to do so.
Did it work?
Those clinics were a success, and it also spurred the universities to start focusing on specializing in addiction and addiction treatment, because we've got terrible levels of addiction in Cape Town, terrible. And most of the gang wars are over drugs and drug turf and drug territory.
Yeah.
And so until we get rid of that and the evil, evil people who prey on these helpless addicts, we're never going to turn it around. So, I wanted to find ways of getting people into affordable, sustainable addiction treatment.
You have spoken highly about managing crime in the city of Cape Town or in the Western Cape. What were some of the achievements?
Well, the Metro Police had been started, I think, back then by Ian Nielsen, who was the MACO member for finance. And we have built the Metro Police under J.P. Smith into a formidable force. And they now even have an investigative capacity. So they do an incredible amount of work to support the South African Police Service in their work. And it's made a very big difference. And the LEAP officers, where we've been able to deploy them, have made a big, big difference, especially to violent crime. So that's happened over the years. But you see, it doesn't happen instantly. Cape Town has been under DA government for more than 15 years now, nearly 20 years. In 2026, it'll be 20 years. And that makes a difference over time. It's the incremental steps that we take. So in one term, you can do so much. You can't do all that much. You can stabilize the finances. You can get the right people appointed into the right positions. That's about all you can do in your first term. In your second term, you build on that. In your third term, you build on that. In your fourth term, you build on that. And incrementally, over 20 years, you see a massive difference from DA government. But you've got to start somewhere.
I don't know if this statistics is correct, and I will not mention the numbers, but the city of Cape Town is regarded as the rape capital of South Africa. I don't know if that's true. But there are more unsolved rape cases apparently in Cape Town than any other part of the country.
With rape, you've got to start with a reporting issue. It's a massively underreported crime. And so you mustn't penalize parts of the country that are better at getting the statistics and getting it reported. Getting the statistics and getting rape to be reported is a big step in and of itself. So often those statistics can be very misleading. We want people to report. We want accurate statistics, even if it looks as if we've got many more of those cases, which we may not have. I mean, this notion that men can have their way with women whenever they feel like it has to stop in South Africa. It just has to stop. No means no. Very simple.
King David Studio Podcast.